Live. All right. Good evening, good morning.
Haha,
It's
yes.
it's relative.
It's is it dark out there?
It's yeah. I'm in the basement, so I don't see. Uh,
Yes, it's the same dark out here too.
is it the same dark?
Hmm.
I'm getting hung up on the titles now of this because like we've had two coachings and then two I've done on my own. So now this is technically coaching number 3, but the previous two videos are also 3 out of 10. So now I'm like, should I call this 5 out of 10 or 5 out of 12 or I don't know. I'm a bit. Maybe I should
Yeah,
change the.
I do three. Do three.
And the previous ones I kind of rename completely to something different. Maybe, or maybe like 3 reprise or
Right. So how's it going?
yeah.
What's the how is the context of opening yourself and your life to this deeper conversation, if you will?
Yeah, I feel like I have like 3 weeks to catch up. I am there. So last time we talked, we were talking about how I should kind of gather all the things and concretize, what's my role within the scene and all of that game be. And I feel like I've reached something like a conclusion, and it's more like 3 nested projects and related ones. um I think so. The general idea is Civium, like to move towards Civium, and one would be kind of like a so project number 1 would be to create like a tool, like basically, if you want, like a simulator of Civium that's based on Google, on Earth location and terrain data and so on, like generates like and bioregions, etc. Kind of simulates what it could look like, creates like a little, yeah, Google Earth kind of UI where you can zoom into different locations, and maybe you then like you drop and you can walk around a la Google Street Map, but in this utopia kind of thing. um and that would be kind of a way to maybe create shared vision, create a dialogue with people who then look at their specific region and say, actually, for me, it would look, I would prefer it to be a bit different. And then, like the model grows, and also for me to learn about all these principles. So that's kind of the most global, abstract level. Then the second would be to do an analysis of Switzerland and its kind of bioregions, and see, okay, what is possible here, maybe at a more detailed level than this global tool, right? And at the level that can perhaps actually mobilize and bootstrap a bit of a network here, so that there are more and more people who are interested in the transition and wanting to collaborate, etc. And then the third would be to actually do something like this for my family, like to create a community or so, uh, a smart village, an eco village, a proto be, intentional community of some kind. And interestingly, like the third one, which I thought would come last, has been very prominent in this couple of weeks, and has been also the most emotionally impactful, because like, to develop some software is one thing, and to to think about with my family moving, investing time, money, our future into something, who is going to be member, who is going to be, all of that, has been, yeah, a lot to process.
Who is gonna? I didn't catch the last part. Who's gonna be what?
If we create this community or whatever it becomes in the end, like the context specifically for, like the little tribe that uh, I would be in, or the community. Yeah. Then what yeah, who is going to be member? Who is like, where is it going to be place? What's the going to be the shape of it? And yeah.
Right. And what's been emotionally? Like, tell me a little bit about You said it was something about emotionally impactful. Tell me more
Yeah.
about that.
In a way, I think we talked about it already once or a couple of times in summer. So there is this place that belongs to my family in the south of Switzerland that kind of calls me.
Yeah.
And last summer I went up there. It's in the mountains, and it's pretty nice and unused. And that's where I spent the first year of my life. And
Mm.
we keep there is this mountain hut, and then my aunt has another mountain hut, and there are these 2 hectares of land that
Mm.
we went up there in summer, and I was warm, and in the evenings I would walk out barefoot in the grass and see the stars and the landscape. It's really nice. I think it's 800 meters above a lake, and really nice.
Mm.
And it was, I felt home. I felt inspired. I thought maybe this is the place. Maybe this is where to
Didn't
invest.
we? Didn't we have one of our sessions up there one time? I think it was up
Um,
there. You.
it was in the village below it, because yeah, I was at my father's place, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And to live up there all the time would be pretty harsh, because in the winter, like pipes get closed and it gets like snowy and everything. But 15 minutes by car down at the lake level, that's where there is an actual village, 2,000 people living there. um and so that was something I was considering in summer. And then I don't know, we for various reasons we thought, no, actually that's not realistic. Or I think mainly because of uh my son and his education. I mean, there the possibilities are limited. It's basically a small public school, and he if he goes there, then we are going to have a bit of a problem with the languages that he's going to learn, in the sense that half of my family is in the is in the German side, and there he's not really going to be exposed to German. So there are all these complications, and we kind of let it aside. And so a couple of weeks ago, when I had this idea, okay, let's create the community, 10 families, looks like, like if you have like 10 families, 5 people each, and each of these families has like 2 children, then you can create a school, right? Because it's about 20 children. You can do all sorts of things. And I mean, in the abstract, it's actually quite exciting and cool. And
Mm.
I posted on some local Facebook groups, and I shared it with my friend. And so we started having dialogues with people. And in these dialogues, then suddenly you see people's values and priorities. And that's where kind of like the pain started, because I see people actually have relatively clear ideas about what they want in life. And I'm more like, oh, this is cool, and this is actually cool, but wait, these are not compatible. And um
Yeah.
and even just in dialogue, discovering, wait, maybe I don't, like discovering that maybe I don't want that, but I'm not sure. And so a lot of questions, and then even discussions with my wife. And also for her it's probably difficult, because I I keep evolving with these ideas, and it's all, you know, like big stuff, long term investments, and it has implications about our careers, about my son's education, and all of that. So has been difficult, and yeah, really an emotional process. And it's interesting how, in talking with my friend and in talking with these uh, new people that I'm getting to know, because many reached out, you know, like to say, ah, yeah, let's make it, let's make this community. And
Yeah.
but then, you know, like there are different. I think one of the key, there are many dimensions um, that are kind of relevant to this big choice. So one is the fact of owning a piece of land, you know, that you can actually, you know, do some permaculture on and some earthworks, and another is my son's education, you know, like and the problem there is that I'm still not sure what should it be, you know, like is um is public school okay, or, you know, because yeah, is that okay, or should it be some special kind of school? I went to Waldorf school, for example. um should it be, you know, these kind of new free schools,
Right.
or should it be, you know, like really in community? uh I mean, in a way that would be the ideal in my mind, you know, like, okay, you have this community and then the children are just there,
Mm,
integrated in the living of everyone. But then, yeah, there is this sense of like, okay, you cannot get everything at once, all together. And so what do you prioritize, right? um and and in this process, you know, like again, like my family's property started calling to me again, you know. It's like, if, let's say that it wouldn't solve the schooling problem, uh, and it wouldn't be this large, you know, intentional community kind of thing. But in terms of community, there is my family, you know, like these are people that I have real relationships with, and that have cared for me, and have, you know, whose characters I know, and whose integrity I know, and, you know, and they are sad that I'm far away, you know, relatively far away. uh, and, you know, like, also for
what's
my
it like
son.
talking about it? What's it like to talk about it right now? I just noticed that there's like a like you like shifted forward a little bit. I felt a little different,
Hmm,
kind of more of a like pores opened or something.
okay. Hmm, hmm. What's it like? Yeah, there is something there that I feel that is, hmm,
I mean, especially when you said about your family, in which you mentioned the word care.
yeah, yeah. It's, I mean, this opens up all the kind of like past childhood stuff, you know, in the sense that I feel like there is an opening there for something that could be actually good, you know, like, and that I have grown up not to expect, let's say.
Mm. It's actually good, and that you've grown up not to expect.
Yeah, Yeah.
Do you know what the actually good thing is that you grew up not to expect?
Real, yeah, what I call community, but the real deal, the real thing. Um, I
Hmm. The real thing.
yeah, actual. hmm,
Hmm.
I don't know how to say it, but I have this image of just walking upstairs, and there is my aunt with her children, and leaving my son there, or like kind of like, yeah, the conviviality, something like that. But all these words now seem a bit shallow, like concepts that I've been throwing around for a while.
Right.
But the actual thing, like,
Has you feel your heart.
hmm?
It sounds like it seems like it has you feel your heart.
Mm.
I mean, I'm feeling my heart listening
Mm.
to you,
Yeah.
like a kind of like a warm kind of vulnerability of some kind. But it's warm. It's like good, personal,
Mhm.
intimate. What do you feel? That's what I feel.
It's interesting how, for me, my perception of my father's side of the family has shifted over the decades.
Just real quick. What was that you said? You were
I,
feeling what?
how the way I
As in,
perceive.
how do you feel? Like
Ah.
as you're talking about this, as we're how do you feel?
Yeah.
I feel this kind of
Yes, how I feel. I feel some tenderness.
yeah. This is
If
important. It also sounds like that there's an element of not quite expecting that totally.
there is an element of resistance,
Ah,
yeah, like fear of being overwhelmed by it somehow.
mm. Do you know overwhelmed by
Yeah, there is some like gratitude or something, like overwhelming.
oh, this is important to you. That's what I'm sensing into is like, oh, this is I feel into the thing that wants to just pause here and it's
Mm.
like something is letting itself know that this is important to you, like a tender way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so much so that there's a bit of a resistance of being overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, yeah. There's something with this, with the with the idea that there's kind of like an expectation that these people might be playing games and instead they actually care, something like that.
Mhm.
So like yeah, that's the surprising element, like kind of like, in a sense, like I'm acting defensive, and then I suddenly discover that these people, like there's no reason to be somehow.
Yeah. And the people that you're referring to right now, are you talking about your family? Or are you talking about the people that you've been in contact with around the project?
I'm talking specifically about my family, yes, about like the side of my family that has the land, and
Yeah.
yeah, and let's say the people who have been mostly in touch, or like wanting to wanting to know about us, my son, and wishing us
Yeah.
to be back as well, like
They miss you.
yeah.
You mentioned in the beginning that this this place always called to you.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird.
And what I'm also hearing you say is that there's another element of where, oh yeah, I my state wasn't expecting that. There's a level of where, huh, I look at them and they care about me. And in that care, I noticed my defensiveness and that there's really no need for it.
There is a bit of a fear, and the realization, um, let's say, additional to the care, and that there might not be much place for my kind of personality, um, in this family, in the sense that they are, yeah, I don't know how to relate. Like, these are very practical, down to earth people,
Mhm.
and that's maybe the biggest fear, that with my big ideals, etc., that you know they would welcome me back home, or even home for the first time, because I didn't grow up with them. I grew up with the other half of the family. They would be happy that we are there, but I don't know how much I would be able to influence, or bring my all these ideas and ideals, and because in the end that would be, yeah, I don't know if, yeah, there's the fear of then being kind of stuck, in a,
Mhm.
maybe that's the ambivalence with community, right? That, yeah, suddenly other people have a say.
Yeah.
and it's I don't know if it's even, there is also a bit of a doubt whether like, should the commitment be, should the choice to be with certain people
Yeah.
be, conditional or unconditional, you know You know, should I say, okay, I don't know. It feels even, there is also a, you know, this parable of the prodigal son, you know, I think
Just in it.
it's in like this story in the Gospels, I think, of the son that leaves the house and spends all the money and then comes back without anything and says, I'm sorry," and then the father is happy anyway to have him back, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um
Yeah. So
there
there's
is
a
an
way
aspect
in.
of that, yeah.
Yeah. So like, so I just want to make sure I'm getting it. So it's like, so as you turn towards this, right? You're like, one, you're like, whoa, these people really want me. In fact, they've always kind of wanted me. And there's some way in which, like, I'm really drawn into that world.
Yeah.
And so as we stop and we notice, like, oh, that's right. I have people out there that are my family
Mm-hmm.
that desire my own existence and want to be near me. And so there's some way in which it's like, whoa, it's a little vulnerable to feel that actually. That feels kind of good. But then as you sit there and you imagine going there, the very unconditionality, right, in which they love you unconditionally is also a way in which what you come with, right, they may not be that open to or can maybe even hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also really important to you. Of like, yeah, like they'll like even if I spend all their money and do all this kind of stuff, they'll still want me to live there. However, there's a there's a passion for the ideal that this whole project's about for you, right? The ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may go there and you may feel really loved at one level, but like it's not necessarily like you'll go there and be seen.
Yeah.
At least as you think about it. Am I tracking it?
Mm. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
It's just difficult, just so hard, all of this.
Mm.
um it's exhausting, you know, like to keep moving in this space of possibility, and then, you know, like there's always, there's no way to have it all in a way.
Yeah.
um
As a matter of fact, the moment you say it's possible and you start moving in that direction is the moment that you find out what the path is, i.e., everything that's in the way,
mm,
right, is
mhm,
actually
mhm.
become right.
Yeah, yeah. And I
And so
think
as you, yeah,
that it's interesting because, and there are two ways to deal with that. One is to just make the choice, and then everything starts appearing, and then you deal with it. Or the other is that you just imagine it, the obstacles appear, and then you don't make the choice, and then you imagine something else.
yes, yes, yes. And then right before you die, you're like, oh shit, I missed it. Oop, and you're gone.
Yeah, exactly. Uh,
Yeah. So there's a way where when you start to like actually, you know, start to intend with your attention in that direction, then all the considerations and the details and all the life stuff starts to show itself, and it starts to get a little overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there are these, I think the things that are big question marks, there are question marks. And I don't know if, maybe, yeah, I'm just very incompetent at making choices, looks like. uh, it's I've made some choices in my life, and then with much struggle, then like being like adhere to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now maybe it's time for another one, a new one. It's just now it doesn't involve only me, it involves at least 3 people, and probably more. That's also the hard part, like I'll give you an example. So there is this woman who reached out to me that has been looking for people like us for a long time now, for like a couple of years, and visited places, built up a network, and she's like ready to go, like best time would have been yesterday. And she's also pretty convinced about homeschooling and lots of things. And for me, it's like, wait, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, I have to think, I have to read, I have to,
Right. Right.
and that's why, this whole process is very emotionally, you know.
Right. Is that the big one? Is that the big one? Is like, whoa, wait, you start to feel overwhelmed. Is that the predominant negative affect that
It's
comes up?
I think it's the fact that other people are involved, and that they are kind of they would like to know what I want, what my goal is, what my uh
Yeah.
that I'm able to kind of talk straight and say, I'm sorry, this is not possible, or yes, I'm totally into it, like these kinds of things. And that's really hard for me, because it's like, interesting, and then it's like it takes a while to realize, wait, but this is not compatible with this other thing. And
Yeah.
um and then it's just hard for me to say no to people. I think that's another,
Right.
to say sorry, this is not going to be it,
Yeah.
or yeah, I mean, it's like the other side of committing, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And then there is also the fact that it's kind of, I'm doing it semi publicly, right? People maybe expect, like this
Right.
great adventure, and
Yeah. Yeah.
in yeah.
Yeah. Totally. It's kind of cool. Like you think about it, it's like this this decision is going to involve all these choices, right? That have a lot at stake, and that you're realizing that it really is predicated on you being really honest with yourself on what you want and what you don't want, right? And so you have to be super clear,
Mm,
right,
yeah.
about this. And so, but being clear in the like, what is the sense for you? It's like if you have to tell somebody no, or you want something different than they want. What happens in your body? Is it do you get kind of scared and anxious? Do you
Yeah.
like what's
Yeah.
the experience that you go through sometimes?
I think there is a not finding words. Like, I don't know how to say it. There is a part of me that wants to say it, but but let's stay friends, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I feel like I'm rejecting people, like, and this sense of rejection of like a future that could have been, and now I
Yeah.
killed. That's kind of like. it feels bad. And then also there is this desire to kind of find a way, let's we can find a way, like we
Mhm.
can compromise.
Right.
But I mean, these are big big decisions, right?
Totally. Totally. So it sounds like what happens is that you're afraid, like, if what's true for you, right? You're afraid that if you say it, that you're going to basically lose the connection with them, or they're going to feel rejected,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, you lose something there. Or you're afraid that you're going to lose something.
Yeah.
But then,
And there's also a bit of embarrassment related to the back and forth aspect of me, that I keep going like, maybe, and then maybe not, and then maybe, and then it's just so, like this idea of going to 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 my family, like it was a
right,
topic this summer, and then it was a topic a couple of months later, and now it's a topic again. I mean, always kind of from a different angle, and there is like a circling, yeah, circling.
totally.
um but like, when again, like I feel ashamed a bit when it's in relationship with other people, when it's about making decisions and commitments, etc.
Yes, yes. So interesting. The what I'm kind of getting with this is, well, one, this whole project is really embodies two fundamental things in you. Like, on one level, it's about community, right? In a deep
Hmm.
way, a very deep way, in belonging in this, like, deeply collaborative way. And it's also about really stepping forward as an individual, right? Like, really spearheading something, really generating something. And so I would imagine, right? And this is what intimacy is, in some level. So what I'm hearing actually is, as I'm hearing you talk, if we say that, like, actually you're on, like, this is you aren't gonna do this. This is you doing this, right? This is not something that you're gonna do. This is something you're doing, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
all part of it. And it's interesting because intimacy is always about tolerating the anxiety in a relationship when you come to that point where it's like, if what's actually true for me as an individual, right, looks like it's going to threaten the relationship or threaten the other person. So if I'm true to myself, I lose them. But then if I'm not true to my if I don't lose them and don't say the thing, then I'll lose myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so those two drives in a certain sense go like this. And those moments of intimacy is that when you tolerate the anxiety and you say the thing, right, is the moment you start to, almost, you enter a new time space dimension, right? Because all this other stuff starts to open up, and that's where intimacy happens, right? Well, the thing I like about that is, what's relieving to me about that is that it's all about the ability, right, to not get rid of anxiety, but actually, you don't have to worry about getting rid of the anxiety. You're going to be anxious if you're doing something that's important to you and you're, like, pushing into new ground. It's it's having the anxiety and moving towards the relationship, like moving towards the conversation, moving towards the action, even in the face of all of that risk that feels imminent. And I know that for me, what was relieving about that is, I think I spent most of my life trying to figure out how not to be anxious so that I could then
Mm-hmm.
do the thing. But it's actually, that's the path. Anxiety is kind of the path.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's fractal in this way. Like what it's going to take to do this is actually the thing that you're doing. The means and the end are kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
When I kind of take that and bring some language around it and say it to you, what happens? What do you feel?
I was absorbed by the fact that it seems like it touches you deeply.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. It's like it's this not knowing, you know. You don't know what the potential is of any relationship, and
Wow.
you have to step into it, not knowing.
Right.
And I guess maybe that has to do with the fact. Yeah, I think I it's good that you pinned it on the anxiety, because like I can be not knowing without feeling too much anxiety if there are not like significant choices involved. And so yeah, maybe I am drawn, like I'm realizing, you know, like I'm drawn towards being in this like open space where not much is at stake, you know, or you know, like where it's kind of, some kind of like layers removed from the hard decisions. But the anxiety generating discussions, conversations are the ones
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
where it's at, you know.
Right. And where you're at right now with things, what are the choices that are just there? Are there any choices that you're needing to make right now regarding any of this? Because it still seems like there's a place where we're more in the still more in the place of kind of getting clear on what the opportunities are. Right. So like, well, for example, one sounds like there's opportunity in relationship with, you know, with your family in that land. Right. There's other conversations that you're having.
Yeah.
Are there any choices that are just immediately kind of imminent or coming that are pretty clear?
That's a yeah. It's interesting. Okay, there is a shift that happens all the time, which is like when I feel like I've, you know, like when I feel like okay, going to my family is the right thing, then I feel like I have a like that I should tell the others and like stop the whole conversation, you know. And then it shifts to I'm actually not sure. Then it's like okay, we're still playing, and so that's kind of like maybe an illusion of having to make a choice, of having to tell people no, this is not going to work out. But like this is so I'm not sure. So the superficial answer that comes up is that what I have to do is to tell this woman, for example, that we cannot, that it's not going to work out. And then if it, if I go deeper, it's like I actually don't know that that's the case, and I don't
Ah,
know,
right.
or I don't, you know, like among all the sea of considerations, I've forgotten why, you know, in a way, like, wait, what is it? What is the reason specifically?
Yeah.
Um, I think, I mean, so one of the things is that she's quite convinced about homeschooling, and I'm not necessarily that, right? So, and she's looking for families to, uh, she's looking for a community so that her children can be home, but with other children, you know, like so that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Um, and given that for me, it's still quite open, you know, what kind of school education, whatever I want for my children. I don't know, you know, like whether I'm more of an impediment towards her dream in that sense. Um, and I mean, one of the an actual choice that I have to make is, so I with my friend, who is more like the kind of like, he has more of the prepper aesthetic, or like he wants to have something for his retirement, you know, like a place. It's more about the land and the farming and the security, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
and we have decided to have a conversation every week. Yeah, right.
Mm.
And now, so this I told this other woman, and she would like now to join this conversation every week, and I feel like, wait, yes, no, I don't know, like it was meant to be this moment with my friend, but if we do we have a common project, or is it not a common project, you know, like all these kinds of uh
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
And so now this is a kind of a decision that I have to take. I have to decide whether I tell this woman, okay, you can, you know, but at the beginning, the idea for me was to, okay, have one conversation altogether, and then, you know, to keep the weekly practice with my friend. Um, and so basically now I have to decide, well, yeah, that would be a first no, that I would have to tell this woman, no, sorry, and these weekly
Mm-hmm.
events were meant to be with my friend only, you know, like, and then
Yeah.
this is already when it starts, you know, like, why do I want only with, you know, like, if I want to create a community with 10 families, is this compatible, you know, with, with having just a weekly conversation with my friend, you know? um
Oh,
so that's we have one decision that I have to make. I just have to
right.
answer to this woman about this.
Yes. So basically, she's asked you. So in other words, you were kind of talking about it or something, and she heard you talk about this meeting, and she wanted to come into it.
Yeah, I told her I have these meetings, and you know, she asked like, can I join? And I thought she meant joining once, right? And now, like, she said, like, I'm gonna make a uh weekly appointment, right? And now I'm like, oh, wait.
Yeah, totally. So
So,
let's just kind of just listen to that like no wait.
hmm.
Mhm.
Hi. Yeah, this is what I'm saying, you know, like how this is, I don't know, for me the whole thing is so emotionally laborious. Like even these small things are like,
Right,
oh my god, I need to
right.
tell this woman, but then, you know, what will come out.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, you get to say no.
yeah.
Right? You get to say no. Yeah. And it sounds like with this person, is there it's like no, is it like no and like I want to keep talking to you or no and Is there an and?
It, I feel kind of the responsibility to tell them what I want, but it's, I mean, you know me, right? Like, I'm having a hard time making it concrete, so concrete that it can be said. That is, like, because my general experience is as soon as I say it, then wait, there is this other aspect, and like then I'm open to reconsidering, and so it's like it's really hard to tell them, like, look, these are the parameters.
Sounds like it sounds like with this meeting, with your friend, this is more of a. It sounds like a generative, talking about possibilities, imagining, being in conversation in that way, right? Is that what those meetings are about?
Yeah, it's more like, okay, we have these common ideas about finding a piece of land and like farming on it, and like the community aspect is kind of new for him, but he's like, actually that's also like, for given that for him the main focus is kind of security long term and so on, like that's actually another aspect, like if you have community. And the idea that if you have enough people, maybe you can put enough capital together to buy something, like you have some economy of scale. But anyway, yeah, talking to him is about this. Meanwhile, we've had one meeting, right? Because the idea came out a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, so it's but it's still oriented towards, in the end, making a decision or looking for something concrete and doing it, right?
Right. And right now you're just getting to know each other and feeling out ideas. And so as it sounds like you're like, no, with this woman, you're like, no, we're not at that stage yet to bring more people in. But I'll let you know when we are.
I'm not sure it's about that. It's more like, honestly, there is a possibility to do something with my friend, but it might not end up like, it might not work out. Like, he's also looking for other possibilities as well, right? So and there is a possibility with this woman, and there is a possibility with many more people. And right now, I maybe that the thing is, I would prefer to have conversations with each of these people individually. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe that's the thing. That yeah, I think so. There is a distinction there between having conversations as like building kind of a network of people, and like or building relationships, but then building groups is kind of already the next level, right? Like to say, wait, okay, all of these relationships kind of are compatible. And I'm not sure that these people are compatible. Maybe that's the problem. But I don't know, which one I would choose, right? Prefer, say, okay, if they don't like each other, like which one is more promising. Right. So it's all of this makes me feel so bad, because I'm considering people and like whether to live with them and to make this huge thing. It's like this meta marriage, and it's Oh, it's
Right.
just so painful. I really don't like to think about people this way. This is why there is this whole shame associated with it. Um,
Right.
all these considerations,
Yeah.
strategizing. Ah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's also kind of like there's an element of where, well, it's not, well, a couple of things. It sounds like what you're doing right now, a lot of what you're doing is precisely having conversations with people and finding out what their desires are and seeing like what's possible and seeing where they sync up and where they don't sync up.
yeah,
Yeah. So these are conversations for possibility, right?
yeah. And also what is happening is I'm discovering my own values that I didn't know that I have, or my lack of an opinion and the need to form one. Like for one of the big things that has come up in the last 2 weeks is the education part of like, like
Yeah.
what kind of started reading a book about it, but I'm not sure what the process is that will lead me towards that, towards having a clear idea. Okay, for my son, I want this,
Right.
I have these priorities, or I want this kind of education, or maybe to discover that, well, yeah, that's not the highest priority, or maybe it is, and it might actually, if like a free school, if it turned out that free school is the highest priority ever, then maybe we wouldn't even move because there is one in the city here, right? That
Yeah.
all these things, and again, it's
Yeah.
like,
It's like
I think
the
the recurring theme is the emotional aspect of it, of like reconsidering everything, turning around the whole thing and say, wait, I'm gonna pin it on this, and then everything else turns like, ah, wait, no,
yeah.
then maybe it's better to actually stay here. And so many moving
Well,
parts.
yeah. And so the thing about it is like one is what I'm hearing is that there's a you're needing a hierarchy of importance. And because that's not really clear right now,
Hmm.
it's hard to know what the hell
Yeah,
to pay attention to exactly.
exactly, and hard to
Yeah.
communicate with people. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. And so is is how do you say it? The Sibian?
Civium. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the model that you want to go for? Like what he's been talking about? Is that kind of what you want to move into? Is that relatively clear?
As
Just wondering what is the thing that's like what is the thing to get clear about first, right?
yeah, yeah.
Such that you can have some boundaries in your mind such that your attention can be in the like pay
Mm.
attention to the most optimal thing that'll make the difference. It's like, for example, is it kind of like, yeah, nothing happens until land happens, right? Or nothing happens until the people,
Mm.
and then we find land.
Hmm. Hmm.
What is it? What's your hunch? What's your intuitive hunch with this? Or non intuitive, mathematical, technical knowing with it?
There is this thing like, the, I mean, it's not a. The problem is that we already have like a quite high baseline here where we live. You know, like there are some ways in which is not optimal. Mainly that we are basically paying rent, and that there is no, yeah, the land part is the thing, right? Like the lack of ownership, if you want. And so maybe the question is, what I think that's the foundational, like I've got everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I want to kind of like bring Cevium again a bit like more to the forefront.
Right.
So Cevium is the idea that now with the digitalization, there is this great decoupling that can happen that makes cities to a degree less important, less central.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore we can move back into nature and tight-knit communities, and meanwhile be connected to the global digital hive mind.
Right.
um, so that's the orientation. It's more like an aesthetic, right? Like what? Okay,
Yeah.
like if Jordan Hall is correct, then if we want to kind of survive as a civilization or whatever comes after the civilization, then kind of like as a collective we need to move towards that.
Yeah.
So, and then, like from there, like how do we move towards that? What is the most effective way, or what is the most fun way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite open.
Right.
And but yeah, it's like, okay, if there is no if land doesn't happen, then there is no need to move. This I can say. This
Yeah.
I guess this is quite solid ground, yes, here. Like
Yeah.
if land
So
doesn't happen, then I can stay here because it's good enough.
right. Right. Totally. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the land and then the people.
So interestingly there, I think that's true in terms of priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Because to be completely honest, uh, to find the people first, I only I'm only really considering it because it would be hard to find, to like, because we wouldn't have enough money to actually buy something on our own.
Yeah. Right.
And then that's where then family comes to my like to play, because it exists. It doesn't belong to me, but it's part of the
Right.
family. So um but so I think, yeah, uh and also there is the possibility, right, to get started somewhere and then like to be a pioneer in a sense, and do things that are interesting, keep broadcasting what you do, and then maybe more people will join, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, and then you can take it slow, right? You have a good base, you can start building, and still, yeah, yeah, I think the land comes before the people.
Right. Okay. So just take a second. So just take a second. Just kind of take a moment and go and you feel into that. Okay. Boom. Like sit with that as if that's absolutely true. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but let's just say it is. What happens?
It's weird. It's like my subconscious wants to offer me counters, but nothing has become really fully, like, is there really something there, like,
Yeah.
like what's the objection? Is there an objection?
Mm.
It's weird. Maybe something that is becoming a bit more conscious is, yeah, like land, like there are some properties about the land and location that are important.
Right. Totally. So first one is like, okay, so we're just checking out levels of importance. Land. All right, the land. So boom, you sit with that and you're like, well, it's land and location, quality.
Oh my god, my mind is doing the thing of like re-questioning. um I think I'm very confused, a very confused person. Hmm. I feel a bit some kind of nausea. No, how do you say it? No, with myself. Yeah, kind of like a bit disgusted by my own, back and forth and hesitation and.
Yeah. It's confronting.
The thing is this: as we were speaking, the possibility came up of wait. If the land is not there, maybe you could still have a virtual, semi-virtual community, like of people, of families that care for each other and help each other, even if the land is not there, right? And that would be worthwhile already. But, that, so it's hard to. It's hard to really find the foundation.
Yeah. Right. Because in some sense, what you're really doing is creating one. Like all you're doing really is making a new universe.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to just maybe appreciate that for a second, right? That like you're creating a cosmos.
Yeah, true. Like it's like so there is all this fragmentation and
Totally.
just like create something from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're also creating something it's with a different sense of an intelligibility that's really not something that's happened before in all respects. Right. So it's not like there's a whole lot of a sense for the basis upon which in a big tradition. In fact, it's kind of like it's like in many ways is precisely not that tradition, those traditions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The thing is, like what's weird is like in general it's easy to find what's the next incremental step, and the way I feel about it right now is like this is something that doesn't have an incremental step. It's like everything has to lock together at once. Like, okay, maybe the land is the first layer and you have to look for it, but no, maybe it's the other thing. Maybe it's like it's like a puzzle that has to like fall together like all at once.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And so if that's the case, right, the most optimal place for you to be in, right? For this, the thing to have the moment where it all falls together. What is that? What is that? What would you say is you in your role in unconcealing this, right? If we will, right?
There is something about openness, yes, actually.
Totally.
Like
That's the sense
one.
I'm getting.
Hmm?
Like, is almost maybe you want to put a little frame around this, right? To where maybe this week, maybe what you want to do is just have all the conversations with all the people and just start to talk about with people about, like, this is what I think I'm up to. What are you up to? Right. And start generating those conversations and
Mm.
talk to the next person
Mm-hmm,
and, like,
mm-hmm.
explicitly just be in the world of possibility.
Like really actually be in my element.
Yeah, be in your element. Yeah, that's
Like
what I'm
just
hearing.
surrender to that, and say whatever comes out comes out.
Right. Right.
Maybe. I mean, it sounds kind of inspiring, actually.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because you're right. It's going to be a thing of, okay, so you go towards it, B, but then the act of moving towards B kicks things up, and so W comes in view, and you realize that W is actually the thing, but there'd be no way for you to be able to know that because you didn't even know about W, and you didn't even know about the category of W-ness,
Yeah,
right? Until you started to, like, move in
exactly.
that direction, right? So I
Yeah,
think the thing, right, what we're talking about is just is what you're right now inside of right now is really your element, right? Which is generating conversations for possibility.
yeah. I mean, what you're making me realize is that I'm 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 the one who is pulling the brakes on it, like to actually, even just present myself. The problem is that I'm avoiding to present myself to people that way, like I'm kind of trying to present myself as someone who has a clear vision, and instead, no, like I should present myself as
Yeah,
this person who is like
you're
completely
trying to
lost. And then have conversations and see what
no, I'm
emerges.
not. Yeah, totally.
Aye.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
Because
I think
like
we
what's cool about that, because suddenly then I could have conversations with my family, like I could embarrass myself and say, whoa, what if we do this and that,
yeah,
and it's just be
yeah,
completely like beginner's mind kind of thing.
yeah,
uh
like really cut loose.
that's a good idea.
Right. Really cut loose. Totally.
Hmm. I like that. It
Cut
feels
loose
it's
and
relieving.
feel what emerges. Feel what starts to emerge, right, in the conversations. Track the conversations on some level. See what feels on and what feels off, and it's just, I think the biggest thing is just to be in the conversation,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
right now, just remember, all of this really, the only place that this exists right now is in language,
Agreed.
right? Mm-hmm. Which is great.
Yeah, yeah, that's true, that's true. uh, yeah, it's interesting because you just opened up, like you opened up in my mind like a corridor between all these dialogues, all these kinds of
Yeah,
circling, etc., and the real world. In a way, it's like, yeah, you can actually engage like that, but not in an artificial setting,
yeah,
with
totally.
with people. About things that matter. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna make people so uncomfortable.
Great. It'd be so great.
Ugh.
So how about if we just, how does this sound? What I'm hearing is like what seems like the thing that's wanting to happen is like, is to be really clear, like right now, especially this week, right? We put some boundaries around it.
Yeah.
Is just start to engage in the conversation with people, put out tweets, like
Yeah.
go, okay, what have you guys been thinking about? Have you heard about the Sivian thing? Okay, tell me about this land opportunity, boom, 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 and just let yourself really get into a relationship and mine the possibilities and let
Mm.
it start to form, right?
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. I don't know. There's something in me that says like, yes. I really feel like doing that.
Right.
Let's just navigate possibility space for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my friend, really good talking with you.
All right. Thank you, guy. It's been a good chat.
All right, I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.